So we have a very exciting book that's coming out. It is a very much multiversal threat to all of D&D, to several different campaign settings and realms. This is a face-off with Vecna. What is the name of this book?
This book is called Vecna, Eve of Ruin.
What was the inspiration for this book?
The biggest inspiration for this book, I think, was for a D&D adventure that would really strike players and fans with a bang. And what better way to get players and DMs excited about D&D than to bring Vecna back with a vengeance for a 20th level adventure?
And this starts off at 10th level.
It does, yes. The players, the adventurers are already established heroes in the city of Neverwinter or somewhere else throughout the world and happen to be in Neverwinter. When these events kick off, they become on a crash course for a confrontation with Vecna, who in the background is already up to things that are going to cause the main plot.
But it wasn't an accident, Todd, that this is the adventure that we settled on for this year, the celebration of 50th anniversary. It does a lot of things that we'll be seeing echoed throughout the whole year, sort of a celebration of D&D writ large. It's classic villains, it's classic settings and locations. Some very famous face characters of D&D will be making appearances in this adventure. So the adventure was really a deliberate aim on our part to kind of reinforce that idea that D&D has this legacy and this range to it, and all of these settings and all of these characters. How can we weave a story that takes a bunch of those and sort of scoops them all up, blends them together in an interesting way? And Vecna is one of our kind of supreme baddies, and we've certainly featured this character before in other stories and other adventures in the history of D&D, but it seemed like a good time, particularly since Vecna, I mean, he goes all the way back to the very beginning of the game.
How much can you tell me about this threat? Because I've read the adventure. It's terrifying.
There's a lot. Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's not that Vecna wants to subjugate any one world in the multiverse. Vecna wants to become the supreme being of the multiverse. He wants to make all of the multiverse in his own image, bend it to his own will. So every single world that is out there, Vecna wants to become the most powerful supreme being, the only god and the supreme god, and have everything and everyone bow to him. That's what he's trying to do.
So that means if you already have an existing campaign and you've come to this 10th level moment, like, it doesn't matter what world you're on, if you do not get yourself involved, this could be the end of your reality.
It's true, yeah, absolutely. Your reality and every other reality. It's not the end, and I think that's kind of what makes this book scary. It's not the end of existence. It's not just nothingness if the characters fail. It's actually a remaking of the multiverse in the most horrifying way possible to meet what Vecna would think of his ideal reality. You get glimpses of these possibilities throughout the adventure, especially toward the end of the adventure, as Vecna is trying to come close to completing his ritual to remake the multiverse. But you see kings having been turned undead and swearing their undying fealty to Vecna and subjugating all of their subjects and making them obey Vecna's commands. You see gods being murdered in some cases and killed and thrust into the astral plane, on Vecna's whim because he thinks it's funny, right? He thinks it's funny not only to be the god of everything, but to destroy anything that would rise up against him.
How do you convey the stakes in this adventure? Like, as you mentioned these hints of, like, there are kings who are, like, converting over to Vecna's side and stuff like that.
So I'd say communicating the stakes are very subtle hints throughout the adventure, especially early on, that things are not quite right, that there's magic that's thrumming throughout the multiverse that's being picked up on by very powerful wizards, knowing that something isn't right. And that is part of the thrust of the plot of this book, that there are very powerful wizards, some of the most powerful wizards in existence, who have deemed that there's something wrong and have activated their network of helpers and allies to figure out what exactly is going on. And what they find out is that cults of Vecna have been working throughout the multiverse to extract really powerful secrets from, in some cases, very powerful individuals, to weave those together and to transfer that power to Vecna, who's putting it all together to try to create this chaos bomb that, when exploded, will remake that universe in his image. However, secrets have a lot of power in this book, right? Vecna being the god of secrets, having the ability to use his magic to pull out the power from those secrets and create his ritual. Well, in that same way, the characters actually have access to the power of secrets themselves. Because they are inexplicably tied to Vecna, they talk to important NPCs throughout the adventure, several characters per chapter in most cases, and they get important secrets. They learn important secrets from these characters who become allies of the party and divulge the secrets on their own free will to the characters, whether it's something they're worried about, whether it's something they know that could cause a lot of power, whether it's something they feel guilty about. These are all the power of these secrets. And the characters, once they learn the secrets, can use them to gain an edge over Vecna, can activate those secrets to get a little bit of power during combat. We actually have a mechanical subsystem for this to make it even more fun for the players. And so the characters have access to that, and they can understand how Vecna was able to gather enough power and twist that into that evil, diabolical, undead style, very, very wicked power that he's making. And the characters have the opportunity to combat that in their own way by using that magic for good.
What elements were important for you to capture in this, being that this is like the 50th anniversary? This is also 10 years of 5th edition.
It is a momentous occasion, and it is a great celebration of the time that we're in. And it's a great celebration of 5th edition too, because over the course of 5th edition, we've released a number of adventures. And we thought, as part of the celebration, not just of the 50th, but of 5th edition, to go back to some of those settings that we have other campaigns in, going back to Ravenloft, which of course we've been to with 5th edition with Curse of Strahd, going back to the Nine Hells, which of course we did in Descent into Avernus. Going back to some of these locations that we've already been to in 5th edition just helped to remind people where 5th edition has gone and the journey that it has been on. And so that was a fun opportunity to go back to some of these familiar places, because there will be some players have been in those campaigns.
Yeah.
And so they will instantly have some knowledge about those locations already in their heads from those experiences. And we thought that would be kind of a fun sort of meta experience for the players who are participating in Vecna Eve of Ruin, that when they have to find one of the rod pieces and it's in this piece of Ravenloft that they've already experienced, they've got a familiarity with it and hopefully a fondness or a terror, depending on their experiences. And that gives the adventure another level that it didn't have otherwise. It's a very daring adventure in that regard, but it's also very classic.
What I like about the adventure, it very much feels like all hands on deck.
It does,
like
yes.
This is the end, or a horrible end. Whether you're the players or your NPCs and all of D&D lore throughout many, many years of the game, it feels like everyone got the call.
It does, yeah, absolutely. So how I was talking before about what Vecna is doing, making a lot of waves and creating a lot of magical feedback and gaining the attention of very powerful spellcasters who are paying attention to the weave and the way that magic is reacting in the world. One of the most powerful spellcasters in the multiverse, but certainly in the Forgotten Realms, is a wizard named Illustrial Silverhand. And she is somebody who hasn't been in D&D a lot recently, has had stats, but not for this edition, not for 5th edition. And she is a primary character in this book. She is one of these powerful wizards who has noticed and realized that something is wrong and has dug into it, because she is a champion of good. She's the Lady of Silvery Moon. She's got a long history that goes all the way back to the novels from 20, 30 years ago, and is this powerful bastion of good in the universe. And when she is worried about something going wrong, you know that something is very much going wrong. But when she figures out that Vecna cultists are involved, that Vecna is involved, that Vecna is trying to do something that is more than just ascend to godhood, which he's already done, she kind of freaks out, and she says, I can't, he's a lich, he's a god in Greyhawk, I can't understand necessarily how to stop him on my own. or I can't figure it out on my own, so I need help. And she puts the call out to her allies. Tasha, who is of course a very well-known and has appeared more recently in D&D's history. Tasha answers that call. A version of Tasha answers that call, not her Fae Queen version, because she's got, time travel is a thing. There are versions of her. And Mordenkainen, who's also very well-known, who's appeared a couple of times in 5th edition, sort of in a cameo role, and of course, is a very important figure, both in lore, but also in D&D history. Those are Alestriel's most powerful allies. They come to her sanctum in Sigil to try to come up with a plan, because they realize not only does not anybody know exactly what's going on, but this is a multiversal issue, and there's no way we can actually marshal all of the authorities throughout the multiverse to try to stop him. We've got to do something. And so the plan that they put together involves their own powerful magic, casting a wish spell, trying to reverse some of the progress that Vecna has made so that they can end his plans, or at least pause it long enough for them to go and confront him. They don't know where he is. This is complicating it. And then, for reasons the characters won't find out until much, 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 much later, their spellcasting doesn't work. When they cast that wish, Vecna's progress isn't reversed. There's no impact to what he's trying to do, but the characters show up. The characters are shunted from wherever they are, and the wizards don't know why, but they have to come up with a backup plan to try to stop Vecna, because literally these people are their only hope. And once the Wizards 3, that's what we're calling them, it's another nod to D&D's history, once the Wizards 3 realize that these heroes, these 10th level heroes, are fated to confront Vecna, that they are the only ones who can actually stop Vecna, because they have a piece of a lich, they have a metaphysical tie to the lich because of the confrontation that they had previously had with the Cult of Vecna. These characters are the only ones who can actually do it. And it's going to take a powerful artifact to try to stop Vecna's plan, which is already in motion, and then the characters set upon the quest to find the Rod of Seven Parts. The pieces are all throughout the multiverse, and the characters are the ones who have to go and get it. And so then there's an epic quest that the characters set off on a clock to try to finish it before Vecna can make any significant process and make this plan come to fruition. They've got to go get this very iconic artifact to D&D's history. So each piece is in 7 different locations. Some of them are different campaign settings, and some of them are different planes of existence. But you are in 7 very distinct areas that have elements to them in that adventure area that are very distinct to the setting that they're in.
There's so many elements to this adventure that I am actively excited about, and there is something so wonderful about an adventure where, you as a player, you are effectively the embodiment of a wish. Yeah. I love the amount of fate and importance that puts on a player from the get-go. Like, the wish spell didn't work, but it kind of maybe theoretically does, because the only answer that came into existence or showed up were these players.
That's true, right? And if you think about the way the wish spell works, it's a very taxing magical spell. You can literally try to structure it in a way to make any effect that you want. And what the effect that Alestriel and Mordenkainen and Tasha want is to stop Vecna. But because they don't have all the details, and they don't know what he's doing, and they don't know where he is, the way that they've worded that question, which I imagine is probably something like, can we please stop Vecna from remaking the multiverse, is for the characters to show up, right? And so when they say, can we have a solution to stop Vecna, and the only answer is these 4 or 5 heroes from Neverwinter show up, then that's a very interesting response to that from the magic that's inherent in the universe.
Feels like a whole bunch of little mini adventures, all like every chapter feels like, okay, this is a unique location in the D&D multiverse, and a unique plane or campaign setting, and you're going to get the flavor of each of them. It's a great introduction to like D&D in general, because you could always go to Sigil and see like all these different creatures interact, right? In Planescape, but this is like you just universe hopping.
Yeah, we've talked a lot internally about the way that this book is structured, and how, like you said, each of the 7 locations are 7 distinct chapters with 7 distinct places and settings where the pieces of the rod are found, that you could play each individual chapter as a standalone, right? If you don't want to run this whole massive campaign, if you haven't got a group, that wants to play for 6 months or a year throughout this entire story, you could just get together for, 3 or 4 probably sessions and go get one piece of the rod and tell a story saying, you're one of many groups that has to go retrieve the Rod of Seven Parts to stop Vecna. And so in that way, hopefully it will be very versatile and very usable for DMs who really are super into Eberron and they really want to run an Eberron story. They can run the story of retrieving the part of the Rod of Seven Parts that's located in Eberron, or Ravenloft, or Spelljammer, or the Forgotten Realms, on and on and on.
It very much feels like a love note to D&D. Like, do you like this campaign setting? Do you like this realm? Do you like this location? Did you want to ever interact with Mordenkainen or all these other characters, these famous iconic D&D villains or monsters? This is like just the culmination of 50 years of D&D.
And you know what? It's worth noting that not only do you get to interact on a recurring basis with characters like Illustrial Silverhand and Mordenkainen and Tasha, but there are other iconic characters who are present in the adventure within the places and the locations where the rod pieces are at and where the characters have to go to get the rod pieces out. There are some characters who are made allusion to, like Tiamat is definitely mentioned. She is most likely not going to appear on screen, but there are characters who very much do appear on screen. I think that DMs will have a lot of fun portraying characters like Lord Soth, for example, who shows up. Strahd shows up and is a pretty significant part of that bit of the adventure. And so I feel like anything that people are very much into individually, there's probably going to be something in this adventure for them. I hope so.
It feels like we're talking a lot about this adventure, but we are not actually spoiling stuff. Like, there are twists and turns.
Yes, there are major spoilers that we're not even touching. We're not even getting within a 10-foot pole's range of those things.
I will completely honestly say this is one of my favorite adventures I've ever read.
That's so exciting. I'm really excited to hear that.
Vecna just feels like the ultimate D&D villain.
I think that's true, yeah. And I think one of the things that is really appealing about Vecna as a villain is that he's scary. Yeah. And the reason that he's scary is because he's undying, he's forever. He is a monolith. He's a monolith who, despite having been defeated in the past, continues to come back and continues to be this threat. And even if the threat of Vecna is thwarted, there's always that sense that he's going to come back and that he's going to eventually threaten reality again. And now this most recent time is just, well, we thwarted him this time. The complete infinite thirst for power is what makes Vecna scary. Like you said, he really never has enough and wants to continue to become more powerful. And the more power that he gets and the more he becomes successful in his quest to subjugate others, the more he wants. He's never satisfied and he's never going to stop until somebody stops him. And that's, I think, what makes him scary.
As always, with all our 5th edition books, these are all compatible with the 2024 core rule books. So we have this amazing player's handbook coming out, fantastic monster manual. I'm very excited for this new Dungeon Master's Guide. This all works together.
Yes, that's 100% true. And I think you asked earlier, what was the inspiration? Why did we want to do this adventure? No, that was part of it, right? It was because the book is absolutely a love letter to D&D. It's a celebration of the 50-year history of D&D and some of these iconic characters, in some cases older than some of our players, older than the person who came up with the story of the book. But it is also very much a looking forward and an evergreen type of adventure that will be available to players for many, many, many years to come. And we hope that it really ties in and really emphasizes the fact that, you can use these new books that are coming out, and this adventure is still something that we hope will be exciting once, well beyond that time.